Hello subscribers. I have a list of stories here that I've been thinking about telling about my life, and when I'm looking over here, I'm looking at my list of stories. That's what I'm doing. I'm often looking over here because I keep myself, because my brain just goes crazy and I'll go down insane rabbit trails if I don't have a list of the points I want to hit as I'm telling my story. So that's what I'm doing when I'm looking over here. I should try to look at the camera more. But I thought about all my stories. There's a lot of silly stuff, fun stuff, and then there's a lot of really serious stuff. And I guess everything else is all the mundane stuff, and that's why it's not on the list. But I think I've been talking a lot of serious topics lately, and been very serious with everything I've been discussing here on YouTube with people and their posts and everything. And I think that's good. All the serious stuff is interesting, and it's worthwhile, I guess, not wild. And this story is about Lollapalooza, the first Lollapalooza before it became a huge spectacle. It was July, late July 30th or 31st, 91. I had just turned 17. I recently found out that my girlfriend at the time was pregnant, and it was a pretty crazy time. I decided I was going to go to this concert, and I got a ticket that day, and I didn't have a ride because my friends were already out there, and I needed to get out there, so I asked my mother to take me and drop me off. And I told her, I know people there, I'll get home, no, don't worry about it. She was skeptical, but she went ahead and dropped me off there. I was 17 years old. I pretty much did whatever I wanted to at the time anyhow. I was not a good boy at this time. Get to the concert. I missed the first band. It was Rollins' band, and when I got there, the Butthole Surfers were on stage. And having a good time. Met some really cool people there. I found the group of people I was looking for, Emily and her friends. We called her M. They were friends of, they were mainly really friends of my girlfriend. They weren't really my friends, but I knew they were going to be there. And I've started recently to get to know these people pretty well. So they were the people I was going to meet there and hang out with, and we hooked up and we were walking around and everything, and not hooked up like that, but we were walking around, and there's this one guy that's walking by, and I need to know what time it is for some reason. I don't remember why. But I stopped him and I asked him what time it was. And, he looks at his watch, tells me what time, then he starts asking about the show, what I thought about what was going on and everything, and the whole experience. And we're talking, and, I was kind of, and everyone's standing around listening to us talk, and I'm like, why are these people listening to me talk to this dude? Why? And we're just two guys talking. And, he actually had some other guys with him, which I didn't notice at first when I was talking to him, but he had, like these big dudes standing around him. And we talk and everything, and he says, cool, and we shake hands, and I start to walk off, and Emily grabs me by the arm. She's like, dude, I don't believe you were just talking to Ice-T. I was like, that's who that was? So then all of a sudden it hit me on who those, big guys were next to him. They were, and why everyone was paying attention to what we were having to say. I had no idea who Ice-T was. I knew the band name that was there and knew some of the songs, but the whole time they were on stage, I was standing in line waiting to get a drink and missed their entire performance. You couldn't see the stage from where I was at in line. So I didn't get to see the guy on stage, wasn't familiar with any of his rap music before he made this rock band, had no idea what this guy looked like because he wasn't in all these movies and stuff. He might have been in a movie before then, but I just didn't watch those type of movies and didn't listen to rap music. So I didn't know who the guy was. So I met Ice-T, and I was like, oh, that's cool, but didn't know who the guy was. Pretty good concert. Jane's Addiction was the headline. They pretty much organized it, and they were the reason why I went to the concert, because I was a big Jane's Addiction fan back then. This was before Been Caught Stealing and Ritual De La Habitual, which I thought stunk. That's when they went downhill. All their good stuff was prior to that, and it was a really good concert. And this one guy there, this friend of everybody, he came into a vehicle. They were parked next to the vehicle that we're going to ride back in. Him and his girlfriend got in a fight, and this guy was all strung out on heroin and just being stupid. And we're heading back out to the car, and we get out there, and like I said, he was parked right next to the vehicle we were riding back in. We get there, and he's sitting in his Jeep, like a Jeep Wrangler, the regular normal Jeep when you think of a Jeep, and the thing's on fire, and he's sitting there pumping the gas, and he looks over at us, he's like, dude, if I was you guys, I'd move because this thing's gonna blow. And he just keeps pumping the gas, and we're like, okay. So we get in the vehicle and start to drive off, and we realize 2 of our tires have been slashed. And we get as far away from the vehicle as we can, driving in the grass, because you're parked in the grass because it's a field in Kansas. And we get as far away as we could, and there's like 4 or 5 other vehicles that had tires slashed as well, but they all had 1 tire slashed, and they changed to their spare, and they drive away. No big deal. He slashed 2 of our tires, and so we're stuck. He has only 1 spare. He changes that one, and now we're sitting there. So him and another guy walk up to the main park and talk to the tow truck driver there. He's like, well, the traffic's really bad right now, which is understandable. He's like, I'll come get you guys when traffic clears. So we're sitting there waiting. We're all talking and everything, having a good time. Just a bunch of kids sitting around and doing nothing. It's the middle of the night. Concert ended like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And, we're sitting there talking. Jeep's burning. And traffic clears. Half hour goes by. Tow truck driver doesn't show up. We're like, what's going on? So we walk back up there, and the place is deserted. Everybody's gone. It's locked up tight. The payphone is on the other side of the fence. So we couldn't make a phone call. We jumped the fence and called AAA. Who else were we going to call? The kid, his parents' car, they had AAA. So AAA says they'll be there about an hour. Hour and a half, nobody's there. We're still alone. And to make matters worse, Jeep's still burning. That's not the worst part. It hadn't blown up yet. That stunk. We seriously thought about blowing it up ourselves. As the story goes on, the Jeep never blows up. It burns all night long. Never explodes. These bikers show up, and we're like, great. Isn't this how every horror movie starts? A bunch of teenage kids stranded somewhere? But the bikers, they never even came over by us. They rode around and stuff and did whatever they were doing, but they didn't bother us at all, which was good. And but an hour and a half goes by, no AAA. So we go back up, hop the fence again, call AAA again. They apologize and say we'll be there within an hour. Waiting some more. Someone else had called their father at this time too, because now it's like, I don't know, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're still waiting. And eventually, the sun starts to come up, and the one person's parent shows up, and tow truck driver shows up too at pretty much the same time. We had to call AAA again, and the tow truck driver finally shows up, changes the tires. A couple people ride back in the tow trucks. A couple people ride back into the guy's vehicle with the father. I rode back with the father, and he tells us that it took him so long to get here because as he's driving to the place, he makes a wrong turn, ends up in the back behind the concert place where the musicians' vans are, and Susie and the Banshees played. And while he's back there, he ends up asking directions from the people there, and it's Susie and the Banshees. So he ends up talking to Susie and all them for like an hour before he comes and gets us. They're like, oh, these guys are really cool, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, good for you, but we were stuck out here in the middle of nowhere, freaked out because these motorcycle dudes and everything else. But it was a pretty good story. I can't remember what he told us about Susie and the Banshees other than she was cool. And how's that for talking fast? But it was an interesting, crazy night. I had just recently started smoking at this time, and it was at the point where, it was at this concert that I finally got past that every single cigarette I smoked made me dizzy. That was my Lollapalooza experience. Great concert. Great concert. I've been to a lot of concerts. I have to put those on my list. There's some good concert stories besides Lollapalooza that are small little bits, so I can just tell those little bits and make one story. But the Lollapalooza concert was an event and a half. That's it. Have a good night.